Hi, my name is Susan Elias, and this is another episode of Fashion Unfolded. Today I want to show you how I can use two existing patterns to make a new design. I have the designs of the patterns I'm going to be using here on the mannequin. This is my dartless sloper dress. It's one of my famous dresses because it's actually on the straight grain and there's no dart. I'm going to be using this pattern. It's actually in a woven fabric, so there is no stretch. This is my knit dress that's also dartless, as you can see, and I'm going to be using this pattern. Because this is knit, you can get away with not having a dart, but I'm going to be combining both of these designs to making a new design. And here we go. I have the sketch I want to show you first, which is right here. It's going to be this dress and this fabric. So it's just a little mini with a fun little sleeve. And now I'm going to show you how it's done. I have both patterns. Here's the dartless sloper dress. Again, there's no darts. This is the knit dress. The reason why I'm using the actual knit dress is because when you have a sleeveless dress such as this, usually it comes in the shoulder a little bit so that a sleeve cannot be sewn into that. So I'm going to be using the sleeve and the armhole section of this pattern. So let's do that. So I have the two pieces right here, and this is the sleeve, by the way. This is the sleeve that's for this knit garment that I'm going to also alter and change. The first thing I'm going to do is take a piece of paper, my pattern making paper. I'm folding it in half because, like I said in my other videos, that every pattern has to be open. There's no such thing as placing on fold. So I'm going to take my first design, which is the front of the dartless sloper dress, and I'm going to put that, I'll flip it around so we can do this the proper way. So I'm going to put this fold to fold like that, and I'm going to trace this for you. Fix this hem a little bit. And now I'm going to take the center front of the knit garment that's right over here, and I'm going to lay it on top of the other piece that's right here. When I did this pattern, the necklines were pretty much the same, so that I remember that. I'm going to push pin it down right at the same neckline section, mesh up to the folded area of the center front again. And I'm going to take another pen color. Let's try purple this time. And I'm going to draw around this. So that the garment or the pattern with a sleeve is also a lower armhole. So I'm putting that in, tracing it all the way around, like that. And there. Then I'm taking these push pins out, and you can see the two different lines. The one that goes further in is actually the sleeveless dress, and then this is the one with the sleeve. I need this line here in order to make it the same neckline and the shoulders. So I'm going to take another color just so you guys can see what's going on, and I'm going to blend in the one area that you need to blend in. So we're going to follow this section all the way over here, and of course the shoulder. So we're going to take this line here. I'm just going to put like a little arrow, a little cross mark there so that you can see the green line is where I'm going to be cutting. I'm going to follow this lower armhole because we need that. You know, if you get confused, you can always just scribble out another piece so that you can just stay on track and know which line to cut. And this is the line I'm going to be cutting here. Then it changes over to the side seam because I want it to be more fitted like the design. I'm then going to switch over to the other line, which is this inner line, a little bit closer fit. So I'm going to give myself also a little indication with the green line where I'm going to cut. And I'm going to follow this line all the way down to the end. And that's all you need to do. I'm going to take my scissors now, and I'm going to cut along the lines that I need. The shorter one because it's a mini, so I'm not using that lower piece. And I'm going to cut as well here. And there's your front. That's your new design. That's the front part of the design right there. We've got the proper armhole, we have the shoulder line, and we have the neckline and the straight side of the seam that we need. We could do the same thing for the back. So I'm just going to put this aside. And with the back, because there is a zipper or some kind of closure to get into it, if it's a non-knit garment, you obviously need some kind of a closure here. In a knit garment, you can put it over your head. You don't really necessarily need anything, in the back as far as buttons or a zipper. But they're not, even with this type of fabric, which is what I'm going to be using, this has a stretch. And not only does this fabric have a stretch, but it has it in both directions, this way and this way. So I don't necessarily really need to put a zipper, but I would rather have a zipper because if it's more of a higher level fashion piece, and it's just a little easier for you to get into it. So I'm going to take my ruler and I'm going to take any of the markings that I have here. I like to use little crosses because it's an easier marking, and I'm going to put a straight line. That's going to be the center back of the piece. I'm just going to go all the way down so I have something to put this pattern to. I'm going to go all the way down. And then I'm going to take the back. This is the dartless dress. It has a 1-inch seam allowance. It's usually done that way so that there's adjustments that can be done later with somebody if they need it less or more in the center back. So we're going to go ahead and use that, but we have to put it actually on the center back. Since this is a seam allowance, I'm going to fold this back so we're right on the center back line. So I'm just going to fold that back like that, all the way across. Plop it over here at the center back line. I'm going to tack it down again with my tacks. I'm working with a cork board underneath, and that's why I'm able to tack everything down. You're going to need that if you're doing any kind of pattern making of any sort. So I've just tacked that down. I'm going to use my blue pen again, and I'm going to trace all the way around this piece. I'm not used to using a pen to trace, so a little messy here. Okay, so we have that piece, and we're going to take this off. And we're going to use the other center back. Again, because this is a knit garment, as you can see here, there is no seam. There's no zipper, there's no seam. So that was actually placed on fold. So I'm going to take that center back, which is marked here. You can see that center back. And I'm going to put it in mesh again against the center back of this garment. I'm going to follow the back neckline as well because I believe the neckline was similar. I'm putting the notches in on the sleeve because I'm going to need that. We need this neckline. We need this entire shoulder line because we need to put that sleeve in. So I'm going to put like a little mark on those corners. Dipping down to this armhole is where we need to go. And then we're going to cut back into the inner line, which is the more fitted straight dress line. So every once in a while, if you want to just put a little marking there so you know that's where you need to be, that's a good idea. So it's definitely a lot shorter to start working with your good pattern pieces. And every designer does this in the industry, whether small or large. I'm going to go ahead and cut this out as well. I have my little intersection there that I'm going to be following these notches all the way around. Cutting that out. I need this shoulder, not this one over here. So I'm going to keep that. Follow the neckline. No, the neckline is over here, the higher neckline. Got confused there for a minute. You don't want this neckline. Just scribble that out. And before I cut this, I need to give it seam allowance because you need to get into this garment. So I'm going to go ahead and give you an inch just in case I change my mind and want to do something else with the back of this dress. So I'm going to give myself an inch seam allowance all the way back there. Push this way. These are your new pieces for the design. Now we have to work on the sleeves. The knit garment, this one right here, is a good one to use. So I've taken this sleeve, which is the sleeve for that garment, and I've narrowed it, as you can see. I have narrowed it all the way down because this is the width it's going to be as the finished garment. This already has seam allowance, so when I narrow it, I have to keep in mind that a ½ inch is going to be taken off of there. I've also divided this pattern into 3 sections. A top section, this is the mid section, and this is the bottom section, so that I can use this as a block to transform and make this puffy sleeve. We've got to cut each section and do something to this mid section. So what I'm going to do with this is one of the exceptions with a actual pattern that you can actually put on fold, and that's the sleeve. There is a change with the sleeve where it actually has to go up higher on the back, but that's okay, that can be done later. I'm literally going to put it on a folded piece of paper as well, on the folded line, like this. I'm going to tack it down, like that. And I'm going to trace around this sleeve. I'm going to be using the back sleeve flare out because we can always go in, we can't go out once you cut it, of course. So I'm struggling to give you a nice line here. And that's a notch that I'm going to need. Trace it all the way around. Give you the notches. This is also a special sleeve that I do. It's a sleeve that's my trademark, where it actually has extra fullness on the base part of the sleeve so that when you lift your arm, the whole dress doesn't come up with it. It's a special engineering type of sleeve that I do on all my designs. I'm going to go ahead and trace the outside of this line, but we want to use this inner line. So I'm going to be using a long prong tool. This is a tracing wheel, but it's for pattern making only. And I'm going to trace over the inner line so I can see it on the paper underneath. I'm also going to trace down this section right here. That's where it's going to be cut off. I take this off like that. I'm going to finish off where it needs to be. So this, we're going to continue this line. Everything is fine here, and I'm going to continue this on to the little dots that I have over here. Perforated dots. This is going to be removed because we have a narrower sleeve now. Here's the bottom part of the sleeve. I'm going to go ahead and put that line in, and we obviously need seam allowance in order to sew it to the next portion. So I'm just going to add ½ inch right there, and that's all you have to do. This will continue down. Whenever you're going to continue with the line, you can't go in. It literally has to be perpendicular, otherwise you're not going to have enough fabric to sew it together. So I did that, and all I'm going to do is cut this out. Now we need the midsection. This section here we're going to also need, and the bottom section. So I've cut the top portion. I've then cut the bottom portion here, and then I've also cut this middle portion. This is the middle section that we're going to actually spread, and that's just put this angle of the pattern so you can see it both. This is the part that we're going to manipulate. After you've cut this piece, add in your seam allowance, cutting the bottom piece, add in your seam allowance. This one we're not going to actually add the seam allowance because we do that after. And I've marked it, and I put it, I've marked it in 1-inch little segments, and I've numbered them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so we can keep track of it when we spread it and do the manipulation to it. It's going to also need to be put on fold. I'm taking these little pins out like this. This is the other side of the paper that it was on. I'm going to put them in their numerical order. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's get that right. And 5. And I'm going to spread it out. This is where the creativity is, because I do everything freehand. There will be people, and I'm sure you will see them on other YouTube videos, where they're doing calculated numbers and they're analyzing everything. I do it completely by eye. It's just an innate ability that you will start to get as you continue. I'm spreading these guys out and trying to think in my head how much gathers I'm going to need for that little inner space. And I've decided that it needs to be at least this wide. It's also a little tricky because you can kind of see that it's actually fuller here than it is here. So you have to keep that in mind as well. So I'm just sort of spreading it out how I think I want it to be. And I've already done that part for you as well. I've spread it out to about this amount right here. I'm going to put that here so you can see it. Spread it out here. And this is what I thought it should be. And I'm just going to show you how I came with that idea. I put the 1, the 2, 3, 4, and 5. I wanted to give it a lot of fullness. I wanted to be as dramatic as the sketch is. So I've just sort of spread it like this. And this is what I thought I needed. Depending upon the fabric, you might want to do it more or less. And after I did that, after it's tacked down, as you can see here, I also need to tack this down so you can see what's going on. All right. They don't have to be even. They could be spread in, uneven increments. It depends on what you want there. And after that, I've also, as you can see, added excess from here to here because I wanted it to be puffy. In order to get that puff, you need to add, and then I added the seam allowance there. Here as well, I added a little bit more, and then of course the seam allowance, because it did not have seam allowance on the top or the bottom and the side. So that's what you get when you add the seam allowance. So it's going to be this shape, pretty much the shape that I have right here. And let me show you how that's actually put together and what it looks like. So after that was all put together and you have it here, and this is the shape you would cut out. And if you saw some of my other videos, you're going to also know that I like to engineer it actually in paper. I like to put it together in paper, and that's what I did. I took the pattern pieces and I just put it together with paper. It's going to be a little bit harder to put it on with paper, just so you can see that's what it's going to look like. Then again, I also cut it in fabric, and this is what it looks like. So I have the finished sleeve, and this is a non-stretch, so it's going to be a little difficult getting it on, but at least you can get an idea, if it did have the stretch, how it should be. And this will be puffing like this. I've got short arms, but basically that's what you're going to get. And this will be sewn in to the armhole, a very tight little armhole, and there's your fun little sleeve. So that's the beginning stages of how you can actually put two different patterns together to make a new design. I hope you enjoyed watching this segment of Fashion Unfolded. Remember, my channel is Susan Elias Couture or Fashion Unfolded. Thank you.